April is Earth Month, and Trust for Public Land is teaming up with Macy's and its customers to transform schoolyards into vibrant, welcoming outdoor spaces where kids can discover the joy of being outside. And you can help. Through the month of April, you can round up your in store purchase or donate online at Macy's.com to turn asphalt lots into green spaces designed for play, learning, and community connection. And since our partnership began in 2022, Macy's has raised over $3.7 million to support the transformation of schoolyards into thriving green spaces. And these schoolyards double as community parks after school hours, providing safe and accessible outdoor spaces for entire neighborhoods. With Macy's support, we're transforming community schoolyards in 55 school districts across 24 states, ensuring more kids and families have a place to move, explore, and create lifelong memories outdoors. Why do community schoolyards matter? Because kids need a place to play outside. Their physical and mental health depends on it. And community schoolyards give them safe, inspiring places to run, imagine, and connect with nature. The best part? Students help design them. Together, we're making sure every child has a place to discover their happiest outside moments.
Hi, Rhonda.
Hi, Tom.
How are you? I expected you to be in Denver by now, but I forgot you haven't left yet.
Well, I mean, I kind of left and then I came back, but then I'm leaving again.
Moving to Denver full
a little
time.
Back and forth. I know.
How's it
it's
feel?
Really exciting. It feels good. It feels like a good time to get out into the mountains and to have some incredible sunshine in that high desert, which makes me super excited. I'm excited.
Love it. Love it.
I'm
Great.
ready for change.
You were there for a few days and then you stopped by South by Southwest as well, which we'll be talking about a little bit today. You moderated a panel there and I want to get to that in a second. But give me a few of your high level takeaways from South by Southwest. What was it like? And did you learn anything new?
Yeah, it's funny. So I have, heard of South by Southwest for years and also Austin, right? It's kind of this place that people want to go to where they can experience anything from these natural spring-fed pools, swimming pools that I actually went to these incredible like hillside hikes that I also went to. For some reason, I had this impression that Texas was just flat, that you could see from one side of the state to the other clearly, and you can't. There's like in central Texas is really remarkable. So that was just something that was personal for me. But South by Southwest is this kind of coveted space where people work really hard to get some sort of time on the agenda, right? If you have a session at South by Southwest, that means that you applied. It means that people voted to get you there. So it's kind of, it means something to be there. And for Trust for Public Land, this was our first opportunity. We were invited to moderate this discussion about equitable access to the outdoors and outdoor recreation and connecting folks of color to the benefits of nature. And so I was honored to be able to get over there and be in the throngs of people.
Yeah. Michelle Obama was there, I hear. Kevin Bacon moderated a session down the hall from you, I think.
Yeah. I wish he had reached out to me first. I would have told him.
You ended up stealing his audience. It was a whole big thing.
I took everybody. He was wondering where everybody went.
He was wandering the halls.
Wondering where did everybody
lost.
go? And then he saw them all in our session. Yeah, it's okay. He'll be all right.
Yeah. So you had this panel at South by Southwest. Can you give us a flavor of what it was about?
So South by Southwest has so many layers around these various tracks that they have for people to learn and engage, right? And so there's technology and there's government affairs and on and on and on. For creatives, all of these things. And there's one track that is around culture. And one could argue, like I do in my mind, like all of it is culture, but that's neither here nor there. Like they have it defined a certain way. And so we were able to get in on the culture track because we were speaking about representation in outdoor recreation, representation in nature spaces. And there was nobody really better to talk about it. I mean, there are a lot of us who can talk about it, but to have Trust for Public Land standing in the gap to kind of facilitate this dialogue with, Manny Almonte from Camping to Connect and Liz Bacelar, who was using it as an opportunity to launch a new organization called Girls Unleashed, which is
Hmm.
awesome.
Very cool.
I'm considered a co-founder of that, which is really cool. And then Gabby is Liz's daughter. She's a 17-year-old high schooler. She's bright and brilliant and has her own stories to tell. And she was kind of like the catalyst for Girls Unleashed coming into its existence.
Mm,
So it
mm,
was really special. So
mm.
we were there on the culture track. We're talking about outdoor recreation. We're talking about, who's out there, who's not. And the end of the story is we're all out there all the time, but we just need a little bit of amplification and elevation around the work that's happening. So it was very good.
Very cool. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're going to play that recording for the audience.
Okay.
I know there was a video at the beginning. Do you just want to set up what that video was about so the audience doesn't doesn't misunderstand?
Yeah, so the organization is called Camping to Connect,
Mm.
and it is a 12-minute documentary. Film is called Wood Hood, about an experience that Camping to Connect offers for young boys of color. Really well conveys everything that we wanted to get across in the discussion. So for
Totally.
the first 12 minutes of the conversation, we screen the film for the audience, and needless to say, people were very pleased. They were inspired. People were connected to it. It was interesting to note that a majority of the people who were in the audience identified as a person of color or an advocate or an ally, people who really want to see this work moving forward. So it was it felt special. It felt special for
Mm,
the folks who came and joined us. And it felt
cool.
special to see all the chatter and excitement after our session was over and the different connections that people were making. It was pretty great.
Cool. Yeah, so for the podcast audience, you'll hear a few references to Woodhood. That's the film that they screened at the beginning, and you can watch it online on YouTube. I've seen it. It's a lovely film. Anything else you want to mention about the panel, South by Southwest? Anything else before we launch into the recording?
Obviously, I love for folks to support Trust for Public Land, but what I also love is for folks to look up Unleashed. It's a single girl,
Mm,
girlunleashed.org. Look at the incredible work that's being lifted up. Be a supporter, be a fan, be a volunteer. And the same holds true for Camping to Connect, campingtoconnect.org. Really want to encourage you to go there, have an experience, be a supporter, be an ally, be an advocate. Yeah, I think that's it. I just really want to lift up those two important organizations and my colleagues who are really compassionate about this work.
all right. Well,
Yeah.
let's get to the recording.
And I'm excited to be here with you all. This is my first time coming to South by Southwest, and one of the things that's important about this session is bringing some new language and some new opportunities to this full community about what it means to connect to the outdoors. And so this session around opening the outdoors for all people is really close to my heart. It highlights the power of nature, the healing qualities that you experience when you're out in the outdoors. It talks about how we use nature and we have access to inspire us, to empower us. And frankly, it's really the story of my personal life, and it's very much a part of my vocation. So it's personal. I'll just say that straight out. The bad news, however, is that while I have had an opportunity to be exposed to so many incredible experiences in the outdoors, communing with nature, that's not something that everybody has an opportunity to experience. And a lot of that is because of systemic barriers. So if we're talking about underinvestment in parks, if we're talking about neighborhood redlining, if we're talking about exclusionary policies, all of the outcomes of those oppressive politics have created a nature gap for a lot of the communities that we have across the United States. And so in many instances, green spaces are either limited or they're non-existent. And so that's the infrastructure, but a lot of times that barrier can also happen in our minds. Very often I say that accessibility is not as much about the physical location and how you get there, but it's about what comes to mind when you wake up in the morning. Do I belong? Am I going to be welcome? Is this something that is available to me? And so one of the things that we'll be talking about today is how do we get rid of those emotional barriers? What are the different opportunities that we can present so folks have an extremely positive outcome? And the other challenge with that is that notion around being unwelcomed or not even being invited gives the impression that the outdoors and nature are only for a select few. And if we look at it, we would say that the people who are determining that it's only for a select few would say that it's not for any of us here on the panel. And that's just a myth, and we're here to bust that myth. The good news, though, is that we're here, and many of you are here, and a lot of us are doing the work to remove those oppressive systems, to remove those barriers. So we're going to talk about representation in the outdoors and in nature. We're going to talk about technology, which is what I think a lot of people here are very interested in general. We're going to talk about the power of storytelling, and then we're going to share some stories about some innovative programming. And we're going to demonstrate how kicking those barriers to the curb. And the truth of the matter is, like, we're here and we're not going anywhere. Our ancestors were here, and by here I mean connected to nature, connected to the earth, always being in communion. And so I am excited, and in a lot of ways I think about this work and this mission as good trouble, right? I want you all to get in good trouble with us outside, in nature. And I'm joined by these beautiful human beings, and I'm going to introduce you to them now. Cool? All right.
Cool.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Thurston. So Gabby Nunes. Gabby is an outdoor advocate. She's a storyteller. Okay, I got you, thank you. She's a high school junior. She is a proud Latina. She's gonna be sharing her personal journey about connecting with nature, about inspiring others to find that healing and that strength that happens when you are able to experience outdoor spaces. And we're also gonna talk to Liz Bacilar. I'm trying to do a Portuguese accent, and I just totally butchered it.
So cute.
Liz is actually the reason why I'm here, to be perfectly honest. She is a lot of things, but for the context today, she is a mom, she is an advocate, she is also the founder of a new organization that's being launched right here today with you during International Women's Month, called Girls Unleashed. So Liz has been a tireless advocate and a champion for empowering girls and young women through outdoor experiences. And again, it's because of her vision. How do we connect this story to culture? How do we bring this into the South by Southwest community that we're here? So shout out to you, Liz, for even thinking that way. And then, yeah. And then, last but not least, we have Manny Almonte. Manny is the founder of Camping to Connect. He is also a passionate advocate and also empowering people, but he really spends a lot of time thinking about men of color and working with young boys of color through transformative outdoor experiences. And his groundbreaking work is at the heart of this documentary that we're going to spend some time watching. It's about 12 minutes long. You will not regret it, I promise you. The story is truly inspiring. The people in the film are truly inspiring. And so I think for the sake of time, we're just going to go ahead and show this film now, and then we'll come back and we'll really dig into it. Yeah, you know, I was recently thinking about this film, which I, like Liz and everybody here, and definitely Manny, has seen several times, and it's kind of, I've equated it to that one song that you love, that you never get sick of, and every time it comes on, you just kind of want to pause and jam. That's how Woodhood is for me, and probably others. But this is storytelling. This is how we can move hearts. This is how we can inspire policy. This is how we can bring resources, investment, time, and we can inspire one another to build things. And so I'm just super excited. I was originally going to share a whole bunch of statistics that come from Trust for Public Land, but there were some statistics that were laid out for you there in the film. And I do need to say, go to tpl.org if you're interested in some really powerful storytelling around the importance of closing the park equity gap, closing the outdoor gap, making sure that we encourage and inspire and politicize, or what's the word when you make a policy, what's the word, Baratunde? Anyway, Go to tpl.org. That's the word.
TPL.org.
I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to let you listen to these folks here because they're pretty incredible. And we're going to kind of have this conversation broken up into various subjects. And right now we're going to actually talk about the inspiration and the importance of representation. And so I know it might be kind of tough to keep this brief because we have about 30 minutes left and we want to be able to open opportunities for you all to ask questions. So Manny, I'm going to start with you. Thank you and Camping to Connect for all of the work that you all are doing. And I would love to hear you talk about why representation in the outdoors and the outdoor sector as a whole matters to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rhonda. Thank you all for being here with us today. I hope you enjoyed the film. I feel that Woodhood does a great job at offering you a window into the work we do, and also about the healing power of nature, and the power of relatable mentorship. For these young men to be able to see themselves, and for the mentors to see themselves in the young men. It allows for everyone that's sharing the experience to feel connected one way or another, right? So whether it's from admiration on looking up at someone who knows how to do the thing, or by actually being vulnerable and share that I just learned this thing the other day. And I, like you, talking mentor to a mentee, I was afraid of bears and, daddy long legs of the world, right? So it's important for them to be able to, for us all, to be able to connect with each other. That's what we call it, camping to connect, and not connect to camp. To connect with nature, and then to be able to connect with our higher selves. So representation matters, because a lot of the kids that we work with, whether it's in New York City or in Denver, Colorado, especially the ones in Colorado, that have access to the outdoors in a different way that a kid from New York would, because many of the schools there would, take the kids camping or hiking at some point or another. And I learned that some of these teenagers that we're working with, they have shared how up until that point, when they are outdoors with us, they never felt connected to the experience. They just felt that they were taken to it because they were part of a class, and sometimes they were the only, young men of color or young girl of color, and it felt a little bit tokenized, right, in the experience. It felt like I'm just riding along, but to be able to have the experience where there's cultural affinity here, and I'm not the odd kid out. Now I feel like, okay, so this is something that we can do, that I can do. I'm a part of something. I have a sense of belonging. And I think that's the most important thing, having the sense of belonging.
Thank you.
Do you want me to jump in?
Go ahead.
So I think this is about all of you. There is a moment in the movie that the young man talks about domino effect. And it's kind of incredible how I experienced this domino effect in my own life. We watched a movie about young men of color, really connecting to the outdoors. But the way for you to get to that journey, it involves all of you. That when you breaking down the stereotypes, like right now we are in the age of AI, that's what I do. I'm the head of AI for a major brand. And when you ask an AI LLM to give me an image of a hiker, right? You're gonna get maybe an older white male. It hurts all of us to have that bias out there in the universe. And I had the pleasure of hiking with many old white males in the Adirondacks, and they don't want that either. They're not the ones saying that we're not supposed to be there. And it's a bias that's there. There's a reason why it exists, but now there's plenty more reasons for it no longer to be in place. And to have representation allow us to feel safe, to allow us to see each other there. I had my road to representation was first seeing myself in other women, and then after I achieved certain things, I wanted to share that with other women, and then we all realized together that they were not girls of color, and then now it brought me to this. So there's more I want to share on that, but I'm sure Gabby wants to add to this as well.
Yeah, of course. Like Liz said, it definitely has something to do with all of us.
You can call me mom. It's okay.
Okay, I don't know what the what the boundary is here, but like Mom said, it definitely has something to do with all of us. Like, I go to school, so for me, if I'm in a classroom where I maybe am not super comfortable with the material, I get really intimidated. Or for you guys, maybe you're at work and you're in a meeting and you don't know what's going on and you feel intimidated. And when it comes to nature, something that is just so like inherently like kind of granted to all of us, when I go up there as a Brazilian woman and I don't see other Brazilian women, that intimidation can kind of internalizes, and then I have the kind of immediate reaction is to take myself out of that space so I don't feel that uncomfortableness and that intimidation. And so when that happens to a lot of people, when people are taking themselves out of their space, there is a sort of self-segregation that's happening. Like Mom said about how, you know, the white men that are hiking don't want it to only be white men, right? But it's kind of on us too, that burden to put ourselves out there and put ourselves in uncomfortable spaces so we can stop self-segregating and really get ourselves out there. I think there's definitely a lot of systematic reasons why you won't see somebody like me hiking, but there's also a lot of ways that we can overcome those systematic burdens ourselves and really put ourselves out there. So I think representation is a gateway to help other people see that intimidation and really take it down.
Lesson done. Bye. No, excellent. No, it's very true. I mean, none of us want to be tokenized. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your identity is, right? And so not only in putting ourselves out there, if we have the courage to do so, it's also about who's leading the organizations, who's making the decisions. And, you know, there's a saying that if you can see it, you can be it, right? And so it's us on the trail, it's us in leadership positions, it's us making policies so that we know that we are welcome and we are safe wherever it is that we're going. So thank you all. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit because of time again, and I mentioned that we're gonna talk a little bit about technology and the influence that it has on how people connect with the outdoors. And I think that there is a continuum where it's creating a larger gap because of technology, or technology being used as an enhancement for people getting outside. And so Manny, recently you shared that you read a book that was highlighting the impacts that technology was having on widening that gap, I think, for young people. And I thought it was really interesting, and I wouldn't mind it. I don't think anybody here would mind if you just shared 2 or 3 takeaways from that book, the name of the book. If you remember the author, that would be awesome, but I don't expect that. I never. But 2 or 3 takeaways about technology and the impact that it had, either what's troubling you about it or what inspires you based on what you read.
Yeah, thank you. The name of the author right now is not going to come to mind. It's my first time at South by, and it's just been a lot of stuff going on here. But the book is called The Anxious Generation. And one of the key takeaways, you know, for me, and it's funny because we talk about the digital world, and for me this is analog to nature, was that back in the early 90s, there was this project called Biosphere 2, right? They had a enclosed ecosystem, you know, dome type of thing. And, you know, for this, the whole experiment failed, but they did take away a lot of good information. And one of them was that the trees that grew there, at some point, the weight that they carried, the roots couldn't hold it. And the reason why it couldn't hold it is because, unlike the trees that grow outside, there was no wind for the tree to resist, right? It was just there, getting, you know, the soil, you know, getting the nutrients, but was no fighting against the wind this way or another. So because of that, the roots couldn't sustain the weight of the growth of the tree. And just like those trees in that ecosystem, in that very controlled space, kids nowadays have been enclosed in technology, right? In the bubble, that's the ecosystem, and they don't get to play outside. The kids, they like to play outside. They need to play outside. They need to be able to run and fall and know how it feels, you know, to scrape a knee. You know, and an example that the book was offering also was about, you know, riding a bike. You could play a video game, and you could ride a bicycle on the video game and do tricks and a bunch of different things. And kids are learning to ride a bike in their minds that way. And so they think they know, but you put them on a bike, they don't know how to balance themselves. They don't know what riding a bike is, the actual experience of it. So nature offers us the ability to play, the ability to know how it feels when you get into elevation, you know, how to conquer the mountains, but also how to conquer the mind, right? And then how to interact with others when you're in that space and build community, instead of being in an isolated, you know, bubble. So.
I'm going to throw out there The Comfort Crisis. It's a great book for all of us about what we are missing out ourselves of not getting out there. Fantastic book.
No, The Comfort Crisis is
Comfort Crisis, amazing.
Well, it's interesting because the way you were just talking, Manny, about how the roots of the tree were described, it kind of feels like the roots are where all the nurturing comes from, right? And when they are unstable and when they are weak and they're not able to retain the weight of the tree, a lot of that is happening with technology, not only with youth, but with those of us who are really dependent on things like Google Maps and Apple Maps and all the maps that we can plug into our phone, where we no longer know how to navigate streets. We no longer know how to get anywhere unless we're following an app. And the same thing is true for kids who can go outside and they can look at a bike and they can look at a tree, but they certainly don't know what to do with it. And I think that's really important, because those are survival skills as well. It's not just about playing and having a good time, but it's out also being able to survive, because as we noticed at the beginning of this session, sometimes technology ain't going to be there for you.
And
then what do
your
you
phone
do,
just dies.
right? Or your phone dies, your battery runs out. What are you going to do? So it's a functional issue as well, right? Did you want to say anything, Liz, about the technology? I know that you've spent your whole career in tech.
Listen, on the technology, I'm going to take us to a different place. When you are bombarded with technology like I am, I'm someone who has ADHD and who was diagnosed later in life, just many moms are, because of my youngest daughter. And all this technology exacerbates it. I feel the stress of it. I feel headaches. And it took me some depression, which I didn't even know was a thing, because back years ago, we were very toxic about the way we talked about mental health in the circles of the world of tech and startups. It's like, I'm too busy to be depressed. Like, would say stuff like that, like, what the hell, right? Like, wrong, off. And then it was through nature that I really got to realize the importance of silence, slowing down. And then now, the studies are coming out. There was an episode, I even wrote it down to share with you. It was Andrew Huberman. It was the episode that he put it out. I was so shocked. I was driving when he said it. I screamed. It was February 24th. In that episode, Andrew Huberman talks about a study that came out that now traditional medicine is proving that if a child hikes for 20 minutes, it has an effect of an ADHD medication. Right, like an Adderall, and no side effects, right? And that meant a lot to me, because medication did not work for me, and what my medication is nature. And I have my family, my daughter, this is the one that's super chill. It's like, Mom, you need a hike. And I remember...
Literally take a hike, yeah.
Yeah, she said, Mom, take a hike. And back in the 80s, we would hear our parents talking about having a drink, right? And now she's sending me out there to relieve my stress, and I listen, and it works.
Mountain margarita.
Gabby, so you are several generations my junior, and I am terrible with technology. I am a Google Mapper. This is not a promotion. How do you see technology interfacing with your day-to-day life and your ability to get outside? I love that you're pushing your mom out there and saying, go get it together, woman. But how is it impacting you and your friends and your peers?
And to add to on this question, do you still get mad when I take your phone when we go hiking?
Oh my God, absolutely. But in terms of technology, I'm in high school. I'm a full-time student. And on top of my 8 to 3 of sitting in a classroom looking at my laptop the whole day. I then go home. I do 5 hours of homework. Junior year is the hardest. It's horrible. But I'm just on my computer all the time. And it's always been like that. I was an iPad kid. Sorry to throw you out there. But when I was kind of brought into nature, my first few hikes, you'd see me like 50 feet behind my family, like walking like this with my little AirPods in, like I'm just here to get it done. And then I realized that 2 hours, that 3 hours, that 4 hours that I'm out there hiking is really the only time that I have to be outside of that, to be away from my computer. I have no excuse. I even like taking photos, look at the trees. Eventually you get enough photos and you're able to put the phone down and just really be in the moment. And I think that that's something that, if I'm not mistaken, I'm the youngest person in this room. A lot of people tell me, like, put your phone down, Gabby, you're a screenager. But when you get out there, yeah.
Did you just drop screenager?
Screenager, yeah.
Amazing.
When I'm out there on a mountain, no bars, no photos, no phone, and mom's telling me to take my AirPods out of my ear, it's kind of the only time that I'm forced to sit with my thoughts and think about my life and have that introspection that I wouldn't have if I'm just in my bed typing up my history paper. And I think that's really valuable, and it's one of the reasons why I'm on this stage right now, because not just to get people like you all hooked on hiking or in nature or understand representation, but to bring my peers out there too. I've dragged so many of my friends out to go hiking because it's really impactful just to get away from technology. I know that's horrible to say at a technology conference, to get away from it, but
no, you take a break.
It's-
But I on the technology track this morning, on the technology of the cell phone, we found a video of
That's
you
what I
of
was just
6
gonna
years
clear.
ago.
Yeah.
And we were shocked about it. It was your first mountain. Before we're going to show it to you guys, embarrass her, because that's part of a mom does, right? Embarrass her teenage daughter. But just give me 2 thoughts about, this is the first mountain you have ever climbed. How did you feel right before you got to the top?
So like I mentioned earlier about that kind of uncomfortableness or that intimidation, not even just for my first hike, for the first couple years of my hiking, every time we got to the trailhead, I'd say, I can't do this. And I literally, for this first mountain, it was 6 miles long, I was crying up there. We had to get out of the car at 5
cried
o'clock
for
in the
3
morning.
miles.
I was literally sobbing. Like, it was a really rough experience in the beginning, but I was really not, I was kind of stuck in like a mental cage. I kept repeating to my mom, like, I cannot do this, I cannot do this. And that frustration was all kind of coming within myself. Obviously, I could do it. I'm right here, right now. I did it. I actually did that, and then I did another mountain immediately afterwards. But the idea of I cannot do it was really what was sitting in my mind. So
But before we share that, hold on. Yeah, before you share it, I wanted us to segue actually into the transformative power of nature and words, tongues and language. Because I think that we saw that in Woodhood. We saw how transformational it was. Now we're talking about our mental agility. Now we're going back to, as Gabby was just sharing, that accessibility that exists in our head before we do a thing. The stories that we tell, there's positive storytelling, and then there's not so positive storytelling. And very often that not so positive storytelling can be our inner monologue, right? And sometimes it can also be influenced by these myths that are out there in the broader society that take these different stereotypes and cast aspersions on certain groups of people, right? And so I just wanted to talk about that transformative power because I think we're gonna see it in real time. It's a beautiful clip, it's about 50 seconds.
Just do right now, my love.
You remember.
Just take a moment.
Yeah, I climbed the mountain.
Your first high peak.
Yeah, it was hard, and I'm not sure I'm gonna do it again.
Wow, you said you couldn't do it. Now you know you can.
Oh, yeah. Sure, but now we have to go to Porter. So,
This one is. So basically, she's saying, I'm not sure I'll ever do this again, but now we have to go to Porter. So which is the next mountain that we are doing the Adirondacks. And that's what, when you talk about storytelling, you might be wondering, why would a mom bring this crying daughter up the mountain? Because she never said, Mom, I don't want to do this. She wanted it, and she was so excited the day before, but she kept saying, I cannot do this. And I held her hand. We took 1,000 breaks. I gave her so much candy.
So many granola bars.
And then at the mountain, at the top, she realized, and we made a deal, don't you ever tell me you cannot do something that you can. And she broke this deal just only once when we were climbing another mountain many years later, and then there was a thunderstorm, and she never climbed in rain before. And she's like, Mom, I cannot climb wet. I'm like, oh, you can. And then we did Algonquin, which is the second tallest mountain of New York, in the rain.
That's awesome. You know, Manny, I think that between the young men that you're working with in Camping to Connect, beyond, so putting all those gentlemen in Woodhood aside and thinking about all the other young men that you all have been able to work with, and even if it wasn't camping, even if it's getting on the trail, would love to hear you share maybe one story or two. It could be from a young man in Denver or Colorado somewhere who had a transformation as a result of going on a hike or having some sort of experience with you all. Can you share one?
There's so many.
Just one.
It's interesting because by default I go into Dev, the young man that was featured in Woodhood, his mentee of mine, direct mentee. And it's been a journey with him since he was 13 years old, where he was referred to us by a school counselor. He was about to get kicked out of school. He was having some issues with all the teachers, basically, because nobody understood that he had issues with authority figures, especially male authority figures. At 13 years old, this young man kicked out his dad, who was abusing his mother, selling and using drugs. They're from Brooklyn, New York, or rather Far Rockaway, that's Queens. And to take that kid on a hike, it was just him and two of his friends from the school. They were all like about to get kicked out together for disrupting. And we went out on a hike just with them. They were able to open up and to look at us not as authority figures or school teachers, which we, by the way, set the ground up from the beginning. That's not who we are. We're there to share an experience with them. To see the transformation of these kids, years later, and the kid that he was arguing with at first about the throwing the paper in the fire, they're buddies right now. Like, they actually flown from New York City. We flew them out to Colorado to backpack the Continental Divide, right? Together. And showing up at the Field Ribbon Classic, which is, you get about 200 people from all over the world to attend this event, and they were the only teenagers there. And for them to feel like they belong, that they could conquer not only the mountains, but they were there with a whole lot of people who don't look like them, right? And to be able to, for them to be comfortable and build community in that space, have that sense of belonging, like, this is no longer foreign to me. This is no longer scary to me. This is something that I can do, and I can be proficient at, and I can show up and show out, right? It's such a huge transformation that I always have an appreciation for that. He now lives in Seattle. He moved there a couple of months ago. He wanted to move to Colorado. He spent last summer working at the largest summer camp in Colorado, Sanborn Western Camps, and he was a junior facilitator there. So to have that kid from Far Rockaway, Queens, never left the state of New York until we took him out camping to New Jersey. And then to get on a plane for the first time and come to Colorado and be in the Rocky Mountains, it opened up the world for him. And I hope that we can continue to do the same for others. That's awesome. We have about 4 minutes left. And I feel like, Liz, you look like you're ready to share something. So I'm going to go ahead and open the door for you. I just want to
finish up my last thought on the storytelling. So there was a slide that I came up. I wanted you to understand like domino effect of storytelling, how it affects us all in this room. So I took a little bit of sliver of life in the United States. I picked the Adirondacks, my favorite place in the universe, you guys, and it's the largest trail system in the United States. So see how the story goes, right? Harriet Tubman, if you think about the incredible work that she has done, it crosses through the Adirondacks. And then we have a famous abolitionist who enabled that work. His home is still there, and it's a beautiful place for you to visit. Then you have the Mohican tribes. My grandma was indigenous, and you can sense their history. All those trails have all those people's stories woven together, still preserved there for you to experience. The Mohican tribes, they were pushed up north, but they still around in the Adirondacks. Some of the descendants were able to reclaim some of the land. And then we have Grace. Oh my God, Grace. Grace is my muse. It's Grace Rudowski. She is the first woman to climb all the mountains of the Adirondacks, the 46. She was the first president of the 46er Club. When I heard about this 46er Club was when I hiked my first high peak. It was a trio because I got lost. And the women that could guide me, they could only help me if I agreed to climb 3 at once. I'm like, okay. And then, of course, after the third, just like Gabi, I was crying so bad. And it wasn't the body that was weak. My mind was weak. That what I'm sharing with Gabi is what I experienced myself, this feeling that I cannot do this. At the end of the hike, the women looked at me and said, oh, you did 3. You only have 43 left. I'm like, 43 what? So I Googled at home 46 Adirondacks, and I found Grace. This woman that I never met, she died 6 years before I started my journey. And 93 years old, if I'm not mistaken, she hiked until her 80s. She is my guiding light. There's a mountain named after her. I remember crying when I reached her mountain and thanking her for her spirit to give me strength. I tapped into her every time I felt like I couldn't do it. This is us. Our stories are woven together, and that's how we all need to reclaim the nature together, because we all come from nature, and we have our way that connects us there. And that's why the work that we do, and you showing up, is all connected. I'm so grateful to that. And that leads to the last slide, which is why we're here today. We're launching Girls Unleashed. It's girlunleashed.org. And Gabi's like, yes, I built a website. I put it live this morning. It's a community of female leaders that came together to create the first free summer camp. Our goal is to spread across the United States. We're not sure yet if we're going to do, like our brothers from Campus to Connect has done, different programs in different states, or we are going to do an app, a web-based app, and do partnerships with tech organizations to enable schools to give outdoor access to outdoors across the United States through the schools. Those are both of our QR codes, and I cannot state, guys, we are taking like $5 donations, $20 donations, whatever it is. We are building the dream. We got this fantastic land that many of our brothers from Campus to Connect was able to offer to the girls this summer. And stay tuned. If you stay connected with us, and if you go on the Connect and sign up, we'll let you know how we're growing, and you're going to see how we are building this together. And today is the first day, is day 1, and you're part of our history now, so thank you.
All right, so here we are after the recording. Rhonda, any closing thoughts?
One of the things that's been running through my mind since I left South by Southwest is, I think what Liz, who really organized us to have this panel discussion there, she was a true champion for this. She was motivated by the opportunity to open up the aperture of dialogue at that convening. And we've got thousands of people literally from all over the world who descend onto this space. And I want to encourage folks to be thinking about where this conversation isn't happening and make space for it. So my hope is that the organizers for South by Southwest in the years to come continue to think about how to open their own aperture. And I know that that's what has happened. Like, it started out as a music event, and then it included, technology, and then it's food, and it's fashion. And so it is, becoming so big. And I think that that shouldn't preclude us from having these meaningful conversations about connectivity and inclusion and opportunities for folks to elevate the need for belonging in all of these spheres that we exist within.
Totally. And one thing that really came through for me was just the transformative power of nature that was mentioned many times, by all the panelists. That was a really strong through line. I'm glad that you said that, because this came up in a conversation I was having earlier today.
And it's because I really do value and appreciate Trust for Public Land. And one of the things that I was articulating is our mission is inarguable. Connection to the outdoors and connection to nature is not a political discussion. It is truly a value for all people. There are so few people that I'm at least familiar with who don't want to get outside and breathe clean air and feel the sun on their skin and the snow and, all of the things. Yeah, it feels really important to me. And it just came through for me and watching the film and having the experience as well. It's a daily reminder, honestly. I want everybody to feel the joys of nature and all the benefits every day.
Well, I think that's a good place to leave it. Do you wanna give us our outro?
People, Nature, Big Ideas is produced by Trust for Public Land in partnership with Pretty Good Productions. Our executive producer is Thomas Clayton Miller. Our senior producer is Vanessa Martin. And our associate producer is Alyssa Morley. If you like the show, please give us a rating on iTunes and maybe mention us to a friend or two. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.